extended period of time.
That's true. Because I did raw, and when I say raw, like I just said, like the fruits and vegetables, but I'm like, I need cooked food.
So I run raw programs,
Okay.
and so that's always something that comes up. So
Yeah.
I always tell people, you know, you can leave the food out so it can become room temperature, or you can throw it in a dehydrator and it can be warm, you know. Because I make a raw lasagna, and when it comes out the dehydrator, it's warm. It's not cold. Of course, you can have your teas and things like that. I just think that people don't have a lot of recipes to work with.
Yeah.
And sometimes what I find is people don't eat enough. That's always my big challenge. And you have to consume way more volume in a raw vegan space than you are comfortable with. And honestly, when I work with clients, I feel like most of my clients are under eating. Even if they weren't raw, they were not eating enough food. And so it's always a challenge then to get people to eat up. Because typically with a raw vegan diet, if you're like 80-20, 80-20, or there's different types of raw vegan, that's a whole different conversation. A woman can eat about 3,000 calories and a man can eat about 5,000 calories a day.
Wow.
And not bulk up in the way that we would traditionally think if you were eating a standard SAD diet, you know, standard American diet. And that'll be sustainable. But most people, when they go into that raw vegan space, they're not eating enough food, and so that's why they feel weak, and because they're taking the same approach that they had to their diet before and just translating it into a different space. And that same thing is applicable to veganism as well. So you never learned how to eat correctly. You had like this broad overview of what that would look like, and then you took those same habits and then you just put a different title on it. And so I think that's why some people who become vegan and then become omnivores become omnivores again, because they didn't know how to eat well before, and then they came into a space that requires a little bit of research and understanding to create sustainability, and they didn't do that, and then they fall short, and then they revert back to what they know.
That's so true. That's probably why there is a deterrence. Like people find veganism off-putting because they have to get that. So with your program, because I know I love like people are saying like I said, everything isn't for everyone. There isn't like a cookie cutter application for a particular person. But with your program, you have the 21-day plant-based.
I have a couple programs. So I have a 21-day reset, and that 21-day reset is more like a cleanse detox. So let me backtrack. I didn't become vegan because I didn't like meat.
Okay.
I became vegan because I was sick. I have a brain tumor, an autoimmune disorder called scleroderma, and PCOS. I got diagnosed with these things by the time I was 13 years old.
Oh, wow.
So I was on medication for almost a decade, and in college, I was just like, this is not how I want to live for the rest of my life. And so I started to do a little bit more research. I got very intentional, and in my research, I was like, okay, I think if I detox and cleanse, go plant-based, take on holistic practices, I'm going to be able to reverse some of these things that are happening as a consequence of the diseases that I've been diagnosed with. And that's how I'm here today.
Okay.
So I did reverse a lot of the symptoms. A lot of my things are in remission.
Okay.
And I say remission because I've learned that healing is nuanced. Because if I'm healed, I would say I could go back to my old diet and everything will be okay. But I know based on the conditions that I have that there's a lifestyle that I have to maintain in order for me to be at homeostasis.
Right.
So I created my program based on my journey to heal. And so it's 21 days. We do vegan, cooked, then we go into raw. And then I also have like a herbal program that people use, or they have the option not to use.
Okay.
And so in that program, I do a lot of education, right? Okay, this is protocols that you can do on a consistent basis outside of this to help you maintain homeostasis. These are why we want to eat certain foods. This is why historically you've seen detox and cleanse programs. What's the difference between a cleanse and detox? Because a lot of times we just throw those words out.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Okay, so ooh, it's gonna get crunchy because a detox supports your body's natural, the organs that already do detoxification. Those two main organs are your liver and your kidneys. So there are herbs and foods that support those organs. And so there's a list of people who be like, well, we have organs that do it, and why would you need to do a detox if your organs are already doing it? And I'm like, are we gonna really act like we're living lifestyles and are not taxing those organs? Are we really gonna do that? Are we really gonna do that?
Exactly.
Like the drinking hurts your liver,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Certain foods that we eat,
Yes.
you're right. Like we're not even gonna talk about how insulin resistance and all those things impact our kidneys. So these resets allow our organs to reset themselves to do what they're supposed to do, right? It's like, for me, it's like saying that, well, our car has parts that do certain things and we never need to do a tune-up or a oil change,
Yeah.
right? A cleanse, on the other side, focuses on your colon and eliminating waste.
Yes.
Those are two different things, right? And with a colon cleanse, you oftentimes have to bring in certain foods and or herbs to support that process.
Yeah.
And a lot of us are constipated,
Heavily.
right? You know, which is why we're seeing an uptick of colon cancer and things like that, because it's also related to how often we have bowel movement.
Yes.
So
I remember when I was younger, I went to the doctor because this is weird probably, I don't care. I've always been fascinated with like poop, with waste. Like I remember I was younger, I would use the bathroom, I always look, people don't check their stool.
I talk about it a lot too,
Yeah.
and people are like, oh, you're always talking about poop. With people in my program, we're like, I'm gonna be your poop best friend,
Yeah.
because your poop tells you so much.
Exactly. And I would look in there and I started researching like you want your poop. They say you want the poop to be long like a sausage. That's a healthy poop. And I remember when I was younger, I seen I'm Jamaican, so my poop looked like goat doo doo. And I called my mom. I'm like, Mom, why does my poop look like that? And she's like, you need to take some fiber or something like that. But I think a lot of people are afraid to use the bathroom.
They are afraid to use the bathroom. They won't use the bathroom when their body's calling for it. They're holding it in. But also, this space holistically is a space we hold our emotions. So if you are, and this is woo-woo for some people.
What is woo-woo?
Woo-woo, like people like, oh, that's woo-woo, but the science is starting to meet the woo-woo. Okay. Right? Like there are things that we've been saying in this holistic space when you look at Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, and beyond, that we were like, oh, that's woo-woo, there's no science confirmation. And now the science is confirming things that our ancestors have been saying forever, you know? So when we look at illness or dis-ease in the body holistically, we say that there's a mind, body, spirit connection. And so if there is disease, though there's something else happening, maybe mentally or spiritually. I'll use myself as an example. Okay, I have a prolactinoma. That's a pituitary tumor. There's actual research that shows men and women who have that particular tumor have abandonment issues from their dad, or their dads were abusive or alcoholic.
Wow.
There's actual research that shows that people with this tumor have this trauma.
So which trauma do you have?
My dad was present, but there were times that he would go away, and then there was abuse in the household.
Okay.
Yeah, so it didn't make sense. Okay, like, oh, I can relate my trauma to what's presenting itself. Then my autoimmune disorder is scleroderma. And when I went to a Chinese medicine doctor, the first thing he said to me when I was actively like, hey, I want to heal in a non-traditional way, he was like, oh, that's a disease of fear. And I was like, what is he talking about? Like, because in your 20s, you're real arrogant. You think you know everything, no one can't tell you anything because you just graduated high school. And don't let you be like gifted advanced because you really think you know everything, right? And I was like, he don't know what he's talking about. And then I sat back and I thought about when my scleroderma showed up and I was living in perpetual fear. My mom is at the time they called it bipolar schizophrenic. Now they call it schizoaffective. And when she would be manic, it was absolute chaos and violence. And so there's a I don't think people who have parents who have mental illness often talk about the anxiety that arrives as a result of having to live with that person for extended periods of time. So I had so much anxiety and I was always on the corner of my seat waiting for the next shoe to drop.
Yeah.
And when my scleroderma started to present was around that time. So oftentimes when I work with clients, we also talk about there's trauma that we need to address. And the research also shows it now. Again, woo-woo is meeting science, right? So they say that adults who had ACEs, adverse childhood experiences for extended periods of time, are more likely to have autoimmune disorders.
Wow. That was deep.
Yeah.
Wow. 'Cause
So the woo-woo is
Yeah.
now integrating with,
science.
Yeah.
Because wow, I know a lot of people talk about like healing their childhood trauma. Can we actually heal? A lot of people today, the way that we maneuver, they revert back to there's some childhood trauma. How could something that happened years ago still present itself today?
well, what my spiritual teacher says in your 0 to 7, that sets the pace